Hello and welcome to ChromeVox from Basics to Mastery. This is week 4, and this week we're going to focus on Google Drive and Google Docs. This is probably the main reason you even signed up for this class in the first place. I just want to give you a heads up that there are so very many features in Google Docs and Google Drive that it was really hard to pick which ones to focus on. So the ones we're looking at are probably the most common ones that your students will need. But we're also going to look at a document, or you on your own will anyway, that is in the Google folder for this week. And it's just a listing of the ChromeVox and Chromebook shortcuts that maybe we don't talk about. One of the main ones that I can think of is comments. We don't really look at comments, making and reading them in this presentation, but the resources are there for you. Google Drive. Okay, so once you open your Google Drive, your screen will look very similar to the one on the next slide, only hopefully less cluttered, because I added a lot of annotations to show you which parts of the screen were called what and how it was divided when you're looking at it from a screen reader's point of view. Remember that all Google apps and programs are essentially specialized web pages, so they will open in Google Chrome. So that's something that I know we've talked about multiple times, but it bears repeating just because it is so important. To navigate and use Google Drive, you can use layered keystrokes, or you can navigate using the search and the arrow keys. If you're using sticky mode, you're going to need to turn it off when you use those layered keystrokes. That's just because your ChromeVox really doesn't know what to do with it. If it's turned on, it talks directly to ChromeVox, and ChromeVox doesn't necessarily understand why. So that's kind of where that's going. This is your Google Drive layout. The very top part is your title bar, and we're just going to leave that be for now because that's not something that is the main focus of today's presentation. The thing that is, though, there's like 3 basic areas that we're going to cover. And the first is the new menu. And that new menu, or the create menu as it's sometimes called, is where you would find new document, new file upload or folder, things like that. The next area below that is the navigation area. And that area is going to help you to navigate to the different parts of your Google Drive. So that it'll help you get from the My Drive to the drives that are shared with you, to recently used things, starred items, trash, some backups, and it'll give you information on storage. That's how you would access that information. And the last and largest area, physically anyway, is your file list view. That lists all of your files. It can be organized by name and by all sorts of different things, but for now we're just focusing on the fact that it's the file list view, and it is pretty comprehensive. You can have it'll list your folders that you can open, and within those folders obviously it might be files or more folders or things like that. So your files are going to be found there as well as your folders, so just as a heads up. There is more than one way to open up a file from Google Drive. This is the first method. What you're going to do is you're going to press G followed by the letter L to go to that file list. And if that doesn't work, just make sure that your sticky mode is off. Next, you're going to focus in the file list, and you're going to use your up and down arrows to choose the file that you want to open. Then press Search plus space or Enter to open the file. Docs opened from Google Drive generally open in a new tab, so that's why we kind of spent so much time talking about switching between open tabs and the difference between that and switching between open windows. Like I said, more than one method, so this is the second method we're going to look at. So the first thing to do is to press Ctrl-O to open that files window on your Chromebook. ChromeVox will not always tell you which folder or area is open, so if you're not sure exactly where you are, use your search plus right and left arrow until you hear tree view and navigation, and then go ahead and press your down arrow to find the folder or area that you want to open, and then press Enter, and that will open it. If you press Tab at that point to return to the list, you'll view and navigate with your arrow keys among the file and folder choices that there are. And when you find what you want, you're just going to hit Enter, or you can try Search plus space. To upload a document in Google Drive, that's something that a lot of people need to do. You're going to press the letter C to open the Create menu, and then use your arrow keys to navigate to File Upload. Please note that your ChromeVox cursor could be placed kind of anywhere in that menu, so you're going to want to use your up and down arrows to locate the File Upload option. So after you've done that, you're going to be placed in the most recently accessed folder on your Chromebook, so that you might have to navigate around that dialog box and open a different folder if this is not the one you want to pull your file from. Navigating the dialog box is pretty easy. You just use your ChromeVox navigation keys like your search and left and right. Sometimes if that doesn't work, you can try Tab. When you're in the tree view or the list area, use search plus up and down arrow to find the next file or folder that you need. And then when you find the file that you want to upload, go ahead and press Enter. ChromeVox is going to tell you that it's downloading and it'll be in your drive shortly. The context menu for a file or a folder can be accessed by pressing space plus the letter M. To navigate the options in the menu, you're just going to use your up and down arrow, and to select the option in focus, press the Enter key. The context menu is shown to the left, and it's basically, the context menu is just a short way of getting to some different options, such as previewing, sharing, getting to the shareable link, renaming a file, things like that. And we're going to talk about some of these things that are more common in the coming slides. So renaming a file from the context menu is one of those options. So open your context menu with a search plus M like we talked about in the last slide. Then you're going to use your arrow keys to select rename. And once you press Enter, this is the dialog box that's located here that is going to show up. Your cursor is placed in an edit field where you can rename the file. Once your cursor is placed there, you don't have to do anything other than just start typing. When you're done, press Enter, or if you've decided that maybe you don't want to rename that file, you can press Cancel. Another thing you can do from the context menu is sharing a file. So you're going to again open that context menu with a search plus M and use your arrow keys to select Share and then press Enter. This is the dialog box you're going to be placed in. Your cursor will be in an edit field right away where you can enter names or email addresses of people that you want to have access to that document. Now navigating that dialog box is pretty easy. You would just use a tab, and there's a couple of places you can navigate to with that tab. One is changing the level of access, another is getting a shareable link, and the third is opening advanced settings. Okay, sharing a file and the level of access. So again, if you navigate to that level of access button with a tab, you're going to press Enter and you're going to be presented with some options. The first option is Can Edit. So the people whose names you've entered there can edit that file. The second level of access that you can choose is Can Comment. So that means they can only insert comments into the document. And the third level is They Can View. So that means they can only look at it, make absolutely no changes at all, or comment at all. Another section that we talked about was getting a shareable link. Sometimes you want to share a link with some people, but only allow others any sort of other kind of access. So to share a link to the file and copy that link to your clipboard, you're going to press Tab or Shift Tab to get to that Get Shareable Link area, and then press Enter. And what's going to happen is you're going to be placed in an edit field again that there's a link in there. You can change the settings for that link by pressing Tab and making adjustments. So anyone with the link can view is one of the options. You can, if you're part of an organization, one of the options is anybody within XYZ organization can view. Another one is public on the web. Another one is anyone with the link can view. So that means anybody that has the link, regardless of whether they can sign in or not. So that's kind of something to look at. And if you need more information on that, there's several things on the web that talk about levels of access and what they mean for you. Privacy, especially, I'm sure that you are all aware, is a big concern in education. And we just want to make sure that all of our districts and employers have different expectations and requirements related to sharing documents that have specific information on them. So it's really important to pay attention to these settings. Sharing a file from the context menu does have some advanced options. So the advanced options allow you to control whether the file can be printed or shared with others who have access to the file. So if I share a file with a coworker, I can restrict that coworker from sharing that file with anyone else. You can also change access for specific people, such as anybody with the link can view, but my coworker that I want to be able to edit is the only one that can edit. To navigate between these options, all you have to really do is the Tab key and follow the ChromeVox instructions as you navigate. It will tell you where you are and what you need to do. Moving a file from the context menu. If you open the context menu, again, search +M, you can use the arrow keys to select Move and then press Enter. You'll be placed in a dialog box. Use the arrow keys to find a folder to move the file to. And to move to that file, to a different folder or area, you're going to use Tab or the Shift tab to navigate to the back button and continue to navigate to where you want to move that file. To create a new folder, you can press Enter when you hear New Folder, and that's in focus if you've been tabbing around that dialog box. Again, this is one of those things that practice makes progress. You are definitely going to want to try more than once. Sometimes try multiple things and see what works best for you and what helps you to remember how to do it. So those single letter layer keystroke commands we've kind of talked about, and there are several of them. If you do an Alt Shift T, that will navigate you to the title bar. That means navigate you to it, not just read it. The layer G followed by N takes you to the navigation pane. G plus L will take you to the list. C or N, either one, will open the Create menu. I often just use C. T will take you to Settings. R will take you to the Sort menu. I will open the activity item for the tab for the file in focus. So it gives you like information. A will open the actions menu for the file that's in focus. It's kind of like the right clicks, kind of like an actions menu, kind of like the context menu, except it's an actions menu. If you press V, it will toggle you between the grid view and the list view. Honestly, your list view is going to be more accessible with ChromeVox. It's not that the grid view is inaccessible, it's just it's a little bit harder to envision and therefore a little harder to navigate. There might be something over further if your student is only using the down arrow. It might not take you to any files that are located within the grid, suppose on the right or left side of that grid. If you use a slash, that will navigate you to the search bar. And you can search the drive for a file or folder and use your arrow keys to select it among the options that you were presented with, and then press Enter. As before, we've talked about this. When using these commands, sticky mode has to be disabled. Now we're on to Google Docs, because Google Drive was a little more complex in some ways than Google Docs, but it's a little bit different. So once you open your Google Docs, your screen is going to look similar to the one on the next slide. Again, pretty marked up. But remember that all Google apps and programs are essentially specialized web pages. I cannot say this enough times, as I'm sure you've noticed. To navigate and use Google Docs, you're going to use those layered keystrokes or use search and the arrow keys. But again, those layered keystrokes are going to be more efficient for you. So this is your Google Docs main screen. Chances are it looks something like this. There are not any real significant single letter navigation or layered keystrokes on this screen really. There's just basically two areas that we look at. You're going to use your ChromeVox navigation commands, search and left and right arrow, or the tab to get to the different areas of the screen that we're going to look at here. If you hear ChromeVox announce list box, use search plus up and down arrows to navigate the items in the box. Sometimes it can be a list of templates or documents, things like that. So the two areas, there's like two basic list boxes, and it's really kind of odd that they don't differentiate them, but they don't. So the first and topmost one lists things like templates and things like that that you can try to use to make your documents look, kind of pretty, have that template in there. The bottom one is going to probably include your most recently accessed docs. Opening a file from the Google Docs main screen, it's interesting. So there's a couple ways to do this, but this is one. We're going to press search plus right arrow until you hear that file picker, and it will say file picker. And then you're going to press search plus space to open that. You're going to be focused on the file picker dialog box. You can't say that 10 times fast. You're going to navigate to the file that you want to open and then press search plus space to select the file that's in focus. You're going to press enter and the file is going to open, but the Docs menus typically open in the same tab. Unlike the Drive menus, like if you are in Google Drive and you open a doc from Drive, it'll open in a separate tab. But if you're opening a doc from Google Docs, it often will open in the same tab. And sometimes that's a little hard to get a handle on, especially if you're not used to it. Because, again, I can't say this enough times either, you are working within basically the Chrome browser the entire time. There are a lot of ways of navigating editable text in a Google Doc. And once you've opened that doc, your cursor is located by default in the edit area of the screen. You're going to be able to type or navigate that text right away. Type in there, of course, will require that you have edit access, but we're assuming that you do. So some of these commands are listed and they're pretty common sense. So the next character is right arrow, whereas the previous character is the left arrow. Next word is control plus right arrow, and the previous word is control plus left arrow. Down arrow will take you to the next line, and the up arrow will take you to the previous line. Control plus up arrow will take you to the beginning of the current line. Control plus down arrow will take you to the end of the current line. And if you go first to the beginning of the current line and then press up arrow, then you are just going to be going to the beginning of that previous line as well, rather than being navigated at some point in the middle. Search and up arrow will take you to a previous page, where search plus down arrow will take you to a next page. Search, control, and left arrow. Now again, we're starting to use more than one key here, so sometimes we might think about sticky mode. But that will take you to the beginning of the document or the top of the edit field, really, if you're in an edit field. Search plus control plus right arrow will take you to the end or bottom of the edit field. If you do a search plus control plus up arrow, that will take you to the top of the page. Search, control, and down arrow will take you to the bottom of the page. Reading and navigating text. Where's my cursor? That's always important to know, and this is a very, very, very important thing to know because you need to know where your cursor is. When you're making edits, you want to know what you're adding, exactly where it's being added. When you're navigating your text character by character, word by word, or in any other way, spoken feedback from ChromeVox will read the content as follows. When you're navigating to the right, ChromeVox will always announce the item that is in physical focus located to the left of the cursor. To the left. When you're navigating to the left, the ChromeVox will always announce the item that is in focus physically to the right of the cursor. This means ChromeVox speaks the character or word that you just passed. That's very, very important. Okay, reading and navigating text. Where's my cursor? In the example below is the word apple, and the cursor is shown in purple, and it's physically located between the P and the L in the word apple. So the second P, it's after the second P and before the letter L. If you had been navigating to the right, letter by letter, ChromeVox would have announced the letter P. So if you were to navigate again to the right, from where the cursor is presently located, it will announce the letter L. If you navigate to the right again, it'll announce the letter E. Okay, that's if you are navigating to the right. If you are navigating to the left, letter by letter, ChromeVox would have announced before your cursor was here, would have announced the letter L. And if you kept navigating to the left, would announce the letter P that it just passed, and then the second P because it would have passed that. And then if you were to have done it one more time, it will navigate in front of the A and will have announced the letter A. It's a very difficult concept for people to get, especially people who are used to visually seeing the cursor. That's one of the reasons that Braille displays are so helpful for people who are using screen readers, because it really gives you that physical location of that cursor, and it doesn't really, it kind of helps with that sort of cognitive mapping. So here's your Google Doc, and this is just a really quick breakdown. There is a menu bar at the very top, and that's where you're going to find File, Edit, View, Insert, all of those. Then you're going to find your toolbar below that, and that's where you're going to find all of the things that you can do to your text. So things like the size, the font, printing sometimes printing is there, adding a link, all of those fancy things are going to be in that toolbar. Your document content, of course, will visually take up the majority of your screen, and in this case, it's the Star Spangled Banner. So in Google Docs, the File menu is accessed by using an Alt plus the letter F, and you navigate it with your up and down arrows, but not your ChromeVox navigation keys. You don't have to use those here. To open a menu with a submenu, you're going to use that right arrow and the left arrow to close it. So note that menu items that visually have an underlined letter can be navigated by simply pressing that letter. So look at Make a Copy up there. See how that C is underlined visually. So to make a copy, you can press Alt F followed by just the letter C without having to go down. I'm not sure exactly how much of that ChromeVox announces, whether it says that you can use that C or not, but I would be interested to find that out. I don't remember noting that. The Edit menu is accessed with Alt plus E, and again, you're going to not use your ChromeVox navigation keys. All you have to do is your up and down arrows. Note that the shortcut keys are also present and announced by ChromeVox, and they're present in the other menus. So for example, undo is Control Z. If you go down a little bit, select all is Control A. Find and replace is Control H. Now where they come up with H for that, I don't really know, but I suppose F and R were already taken with something else, so that would probably be why. So there are other menus as well that we're not going to look at just because they're not as quite as important as the ones we did kind of look at with the screenshot. So to open these are as follows. To open the View menu, you're going to do Alt plus V. Insert is Alt plus I. Format is Alt plus O. Tools is Alt plus T. Add-ons is Alt plus N. And Help with accessibility is Alt plus A. There are other menus as well. So as we've talked about on previous slides, these menus are navigated using the up and down arrow keys, not with your ChromeVox shortcuts. Note that there are some options that are check boxes. Use Enter to check or uncheck a checkbox or to activate a menu item. Other menu items will offer a dialog box when entered with the Enter key. Using your ChromeVox navigation commands or tab to move around those is probably the best way to go, and then press Enter when finished. The Google Doc toolbar, there really is not a specific command to jump to that toolbar. Navigating the items on the toolbar with ChromeVox navigation keys is pretty standard, and ChromeVox announces the item that's in focus and will also announce any associated keyboard shortcuts. So you would navigate to that toolbar using your Chrome navigation commands like search and the right and left arrow to get up to that toolbar. Spell checking is always a fun little thing, and it's kind of important. So there's a couple ways to do it. To open the spell check dialog, you're going to press Alt, Control plus X. No, I don't know who came up with this, but it's Alt, Control plus X. Once it appears, you can navigate the options using the navigation keys or the Tab key. Either one works. Pressing Enter when you hear the correct spelling of the word will replace that. To hear the word spelled, just to make sure that it's the correct spelling, you're going to press Search plus Shift and the right or left arrow. So you are going to have to physically spell that out. It won't read it to you. To change all, ignore all, or add it to your personal dictionary, you're going to activate the Other Options button that is noted with the arrow, and it's just those three vertical dots. That's the More Options or Other Options menu. Another method is you can navigate from spelling error to spelling error and correct them without actually opening that spell check dialog box. And here's how to do that. You're going to move to the next spelling error using Control and the apostrophe or the single quote. Then you're going to move to the previous spelling error using Control plus the semicolon. So that's how you get back and forth between them. As you're focused on the spelling error, you're going to open a context menu using Search plus the letter M, just like we did before. Then use your arrow keys to select the word that you believe will replace that. To hear a word spelled letter by letter to ensure you're making the correct choice, press Search plus Shift plus right arrow and or left arrow. There are, again, as I mentioned before, other keyboard shortcuts for Google Docs. We can't cover a lot of the advanced editing in this course because it's a lot to do in such a short period of time. But the commands for both of these are located in the linked document above or in your Google folder. Also, please feel free to contact the instructor with any questions on topics that are not covered in this course. Individualized instruction and resources can be provided upon request. This Google Doc has all the shortcuts for Chromebooks, including some minimal support for ChromeVox users. So it's mainly just all the Chromebook commands. But that's okay because that's all we need. These commands are accurate as of December of 2019. So, time for questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, email me or call, and I'll be happy to address them for you. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.